in the kitchen, and you're invited too. I'm Kate, and this is my kitchen. Happy 4th of July. I'm going to make a 4th of July feast today, and I'm going to start with my root beer sauce barbecue ribs. The first thing I did, and I did this yesterday, was to make a brine for my ribs, and I soaked them overnight. You want to soak them at least 4 hours, but up to 24. And let me tell you how I made this brine. I took 12 cups of water in a saucepan. I added a half a cup of kosher salt, a third of a cup of molasses, 10 whole cloves, about a tablespoon of cinnamon, and about a teaspoon of ground star anise. And I took about 10 to 12 peppercorns. I brought that all to a simmer just long enough to dissolve the kosher salt. And then I turned it off and I put it in an ice bath to cool completely. Then I put the ribs into this tub, covered them with the brine, and I added the juice and peel of one orange. And you can see I just got the orange part of the peel, not the white pith, because that will be bitter. And like I said, I've been soaking them since last night, turning them over a few times so that all sides get marinated. So let's talk about barbecue sauce. For the barbecue sauce, I've got 1 cup of ketchup. I am using an all-natural because it's got very few ingredients. It doesn't have any chemicals in it, so I know exactly what's going into my sauce. I'm going to use 1 cup of root beer as well. I've got a cup of chopped fresh pineapple. It's very ripe. About a third of a cup of pineapple orange marmalade. Now you could use peach or apricot as well, but I kind of like the tie-in of the two. A half a cup of finely diced onion. The juice and the zest of 1 lemon. A teaspoon of freshly grated ginger. A half teaspoon of paprika and a half teaspoon of smoked paprika. 2 cloves of garlic finely minced, that's about a little over a tablespoon, and a teaspoon of Worcestershire sauce. Now the Worcestershire sauce and the 2 paprikas, make your sauce, let it simmer a while, and then taste it, and you can see if you want more of any of those, but start with less. We're also going to add some salt and pepper to this, so let's go over to the stove and get this going. I'm going to put just a couple of tablespoons of olive oil in the bottom of my pan. And I'm going to start with my onions and saute them just for a minute. Okay, those have been going about a minute or so, just enough to soften them up. I'm going to add my garlic. And again, just about 30 seconds to a minute. I don't want to burn the garlic. I just want to start that flavor going. I'm going to add my ketchup. And then in the same measuring cup, I'm going to measure out my root beer, and the root beer will help get the last few bits of ketchup out of that glass measuring cup. So a cup of ketchup, a cup of root beer. Give that a mix. Going to add my marmalade and my pineapple. Now you can leave this finished product as very chunky with the pineapple, or you can put it in a blender and strain it if you want it not quite so chunky. I've got my ginger. I buy the ginger at the store. I peel it and then I stick it in the freezer in a Ziploc bag. And I can have fresh ginger whenever I want it without spoiling. My paprika. And my Worcestershire. I'm going to let this cook for a bit till it gets a little thick. Then I'm going to give it a taste for salt and pepper. The lemon and juice and zest I add toward the end. The barbecue sauce has gotten thicker, but it's not quite as thick as I want. At this time, I'm going to give it a taste for salt and pepper. I'm sure it needs some. You can still see it's still steaming. Really good. A little tangy from the lemon and the pineapple, but also sweet from the pineapple and the marmalade. Does need a little salt. Now, don't over salt because there is salt in the ketchup and in the Worcestershire. And you can always add more salt. So I'm going to blend this up and strain it and put it back onto the stove to thicken. All right, I'm going to give this a strain. Like I said, you can leave it chunky if you want. It's totally optional to do this step. And I'm just going to push it through the strainer with my spatula. You can see it basically all strained through, and make sure you scrape off the bottom. You don't want to lose any of that extra sauce there. You want to give this a taste again for salt and pepper. Also, if it's not sweet enough to your taste, at this point you could add a little molasses or brown sugar or honey to get it a little sweeter. I like the sweet sour tang myself. I've got my ribs, which have brined for about 20 hours. I'm going to drain these, pat them dry, and then they're going to go on the grill on medium heat for 2 to 3 hours. I'm going to give the ribs just a little bit of oil and spread that around. And then they're going to go onto the grill, which I have preheated to medium heat. I'm going to lay our ribs on. Nice sound. Get the other one. Get a firm grip on it so you don't lose it to the dirt. And we're just going to let those sit there for a while. If you tried to turn them right now, they would stick and tear, so just leave them alone. I'm going to go ahead and slather these ribs with some of our sauce. I've got about 10-15 minutes left of cooking time. And I've got them on the indirect heat, which is where they've been most of the time, because I didn't want them to get too dark, too charred. I've got a loaf of par-baked Italian bread, and I put just a little bit of butter on it. I'm going to go out and put this on the grill face down. I've got the bread off the grill. It just took about 2 minutes, and you can see I've got some nice grill marks on there. Now I'm going to slather it with this butter. And I saved just a little bit of the roasted garlic that I used for the potato salad dressing. So I've got that in here as well. This is going to be like pizzeria garlic bread, where it's very buttery, very garlicky. And then onto that, I'm going to sprinkle some grated Parmesan. Got our bread, and I'm just going to put it on the back rack here so it can bake without getting too much heat. And I'm going to close the lid just for a few minutes. So here we have our 4th of July feast. We've got our roasted potatoes with the balsamic and onion vinaigrette. We've got our ribs with extra sauce. We've got our grilled garlic bread, and we've got our corn salsa with shrimp. Happy 4th of July, everybody.